Hi, this is Stacy from Stacy Rabbit Jewelry. Today, I'm here to make a design with Sam's September 2025 Wendy's Safari bead box. This is a really cool bead box, and it celebrates the life of a really amazing jewelry designer, Wendy Whitman, who passed away 2 years ago. I am honored to make pieces inspired by Wendy. Today I'm going to make a necklace using this bead box. We're going to start with the pendant part of this necklace. And I'm going to use the super cool green zebra jasper oval. This is a beautiful stone and will make a great focal on this necklace. To start, I'm going to take one of these check glass flowers and put it onto a head pin, and I am going to make a simple loop. So I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers and get close to the bead, but not so close that I crack it. Bend that to a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to come in and leave some space to make a loop, and I'm just going to cut that with my flush cutters and the flush side facing in. We are now going to turn a loop once I find my hidden round nose pliers by basically putting the end of the wire the very end of the barrels, wants to keep spinning on me, and rolling this back to form a loop. I am using some stiffer head pins, so it's a little bit more difficult to accomplish. And you can just straighten this out. And there's a little charm that goes on the bottom of our design. And we'll just set that aside. We'll also set this fern leaf from Tiara cast aside. Next, I am using part of a package, Bead German style wire. It is antique brass and 22 gauge. It is a medium temper wire, so it's going to be a little bit stiffer. I have a piece that's probably about 10 inches, but this is probably longer than you need. I just don't want to run out in the middle of doing a recording, because then I get to do it again. So we are going to now work on our stone. The first thing that we are going to do is leave a couple inches, and again, like we did before, make a 90-degree bend in our wire and come in and make a loop, because we are going to do a wire wrapped loop. So we have a loop. The size is not super critical here because we're going to string this onto beading wire. And I am just getting this situated without poking the camera or my eye. We are going to grab this loop with our pliers, with that out hitting where the wire crosses. And sometimes with German style wire, you have to warm it a little bit to get it to do what you want. So we are going to wrap this wire a couple of times. And I'm going to go with 4, and you'll see why in a minute. So just making sure my loop looks good. I am now going to come in, cut off my tail with my flush cutters, set my extras aside, and then just come in here and tuck in my tail. I am going to straighten my wire out a little bit and pop on this gorgeous oval stone. I think I'm using the smaller one in this set here. So we want this facing that direction so it can easily be strung onto a necklace. And we are going to try and match this distance at the bottom. So leave a little bit of space. I actually, thinking about this, I want these to face the same direction, so I'm going to grab it a different way. We want our loops going in the same direction so that this attaches nicely. Why does this not want to behave for me? Stay. Okay, we got it. So again, I bent that at a 90-degree angle. Come in with my round nose pliers and make a loop. Okay, the super important thing here is we've got to attach it to this leaf before closing it up. And so I am just going to open this loop a little bit and sneak this on here. And then close that loop back down. We are going to wrap this loop exactly how we did the other one. So I'm going to try and get this wire warmed so it is nice and well behaved. And we're going to try and get 4 loops. That is perfect. Let me see which way we're facing. So this looks the same really from both sides, so it shouldn't matter. And so I am going to do part of a herringbone design. So I have my wire coming off to the right. And I am going to try and form my wire around the stone, wrap around the base, and then come off the other side. And this is what it should look like. Then I am just going to turn this the other direction. Warm my wire a few times just using my hand. And then again, kind of hold the wire against the stone and form it, and then wrap it. That got a little bit tight, so I am gonna pull this off. So I don't like how it kind of popped up on here. So I am just going to come in with my favorite tool, which is my nylon jaw pliers, and straighten that out a little bit, and then just come in and form this again. I am not going to hold it in here quite as tight because I think when I wrapped that loop, I was a little bit overzealous. So I like that much better this time. It's more framing the piece. So at this bottom end, we're just going to wrap once or twice more to secure it in place. And then I've got the wire on the back. And we are going to cut this off, and we can use this piece for something else. See, I had plenty of extra, but I didn't want to run the risk of running out, because then you get to start all over. So again, we just want to flatten this little end down. And we want to make sure that it looks pretty straight to me. You can just kind of straighten it out. Same thing down here. I want this to be a little bit more straight. So let me move some of this stuff out of the way. And you can see that is most of our pendant. Last but not least, our flower. We have not forgotten about it. We are going to come in and just open that simple loop. It's just spin on me. So again, you just twist that. We are going to pop that through here. Maybe I did not make my loop too big enough. I did not, so we get to make this guy all over again. So I will go ahead and do that and be right back. Okay, I am back. So this loop here on the bottom of our fern leaf is super thick, so make a big loop before you have to end up redoing it, just like me. So we're going to basically just close our jump ring. Close our simple loop, and we'll have a pendant. Here is our finished pendant. I really was excited about how perfectly these check glass flowers matched our zebra pendant. I'm going to set our pendant aside and start working on our necklace. I am going to string my design onto Soft Flex Metallics Medium and Antique Brass because it kind of matches our pendant that we have here. So I'm going to work from the spool, and I am just going to roll some out and put this back on to avoid the whole thing unspooling on me. And what I'm going to be using to make my necklace are these super cool wood rounds. I really like these. These are very kind of boho and rustic. And then I am also going to use some of these little check glass spacer beads along with more of the check glass flowers in this cool green Picasso finish. So I am just going to string those on, and my pattern is going to be 3 of the spacers, and I did just pick out the clear ones. I did end up using the green ones for another project, but I put 3 of those on, a wood round, 3 more of the spacers, a flower, and then I am going to go and just repeat that. So 3 spacers, a wood, 3 spacers, a flower. And I will be back after I do a little bit more of that and show you my design. So here is what I've done. 3 spacers of wood, 3 spacers flower, 3 spacers wood, 3 spacers flower, 3 spacers. Now I am going to add in our pendant, and then I'll resume adding the same thing on the other side. So I am going to do my spacers, another flower, and then I am going to keep doing that, and I'll show you what I do next. So here is my strung bead design, and it is a symmetrical design. The next thing I need to do is put in some crimp tubes. I'm using some size 2 crimp tubes. I don't have any brass or bronze, so mine are going to be gold. And then I need a little bit more length to this necklace, so I am going to use this matte gold paper clip chain because you can never go wrong with paper clip chain. And I thought actually the matte gold with kind of some of the brassy color was kind of a really interesting mix. So we're going to put our crimp tube on, followed by our chain, and then we're going to send our wire back through the crimp tube. And I am going to adjust this a little. I want some room for that to move. So about like that. My wires are parallel, so you can see they're not crossing inside of my crimp tube. I am old school. I like the Bead-A-Lon, just the regular old crimping pliers. And what we're gonna do is pop that crimp tube into the back jaw of the pliers and squeeze. And then we are going to turn it and put it in the front jaw of the pliers and squeeze it again. And sometimes I just go around and make sure it's tight. The other thing I always do, because usually if you have a bad crimp, you can pull this off. Mine's not moving. So loops ended up a little bit bigger, as you saw it moved on me. But we're going with it, it works. It's solid, it's not coming off. This is like my trick. So we now need to go do the other side. So I like to put the end of my wire through a couple of beads. So I am gonna see if I can get, this is medium, so it's gonna be a little bit trickier to get it through. I am wondering if we can get that through. It's a no. So if your wire does not fit through the hole of your back through the hole of your bead, you have to come in with a flush cutter and just cut it off. So that is what I did. If I can fit it through the hole, I do that. If not, I cut it off. So beads with smaller holes and things like seed beads are usually out of luck. So we are coming to the other end. I personally do not like to have tiny bits of wire and try and get it threaded back through a crimp tube. It is challenging for me and I get very frustrated. So I try and avoid getting frustrated while beading. So I leave myself a little bit and I just deal with the fact that I'm wasting a little of it. So same thing, crimp tube on, paper clip chain on, and then we are going to go back through our crimp tube. So you want this like not super rigid when you crimp it, and you want to, again, try and keep these parallel. Yeah, they're similar in size, so we are going to go for it. So here I am back with the back jaw of my pliers, and I just squeezed that, and I am going to turn it, put it in the front jaw, and I sometimes go around it a little and just kind of make sure it's solid and rounded out. So I am going to come in, do my tug test, which passed. And cut this. If you are going to send your extra wire through a bead, I find it easier to do before I crimp, but that's my own personal experience. So I am not leaving this Neelay Patel style. I am actually seeing where this ends, because I'm going to cut this in half. Ooh, I think it's even. I was hoping we had an extra. We don't. So we're going to have to take off these last two to keep it even, but that's fine. So here are my chain cutting tips. Do not cut chain with your good flush cutters, because you will do this to them. You can see I've got chunks missing. So this is my old crappy pair, and these are relegated to cutting chain and other things that you wouldn't want to use your good flush cutters on. But the smarter option is, I'm back evening these out, to actually use memory wire cutters, because these things are industrial strength. And they are super cool because they cut flush no matter which direction. So, look at that, like no effort. So we're just gonna cut that off. And sadly, I have to cut the other one too, to make this even. You know what? Measure twice, cut once, as they say. I was gonna cut the wrong one. See? Measure twice, cut once. So I need to cut this one off. Then I would have had to cut extra. That would have been really bad. My necklace probably would have been too short. Okay. So we have our design, and what we are gonna do is figure out where I put my clasp. Hidden way over here. So I'm back with brass. I've had this clasp for a while. I've been saving it for a special occasion. Wendy's necklace is a special occasion. So we are gonna just go ahead with jump rings and add that on to our chain. Our last assembly step is going to be the following. It is gonna be to just add our clasp on using jump rings. I actually like using thicker jump rings like this, especially if you're putting a clasp or something on, just because it makes that a little bit stronger once you get it on. So this is what I am doing. And then closing jump rings, I like to chain nose pliers. That's just a me thing. And you just twist back and forth until those line up. And we have got that on there. We need to do the same thing. So 2 chain nose pliers, twist either towards you or away with one of the pliers. And close that up. And we have our clasp. So here's the finished necklace, and I also made a pair of matching earrings. So the green check glass spacers were worked into the earrings. And I recently did another tutorial for great beads, and this earring design is remarkably similar to how I made those if you want to see how to make them. So this is Stacy from Stacy Rabbit Jewelry. Thank you for joining me.